Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Name One Player podcast. My name is Nicole, and I am your host. And before we get into today's episode, I just want to say a huge thank you to every single person who has hit play today. The Name One Player podcast is a place for women to talk about the sports that they love without ever being asked to name one player, because that's real dang annoying. And guess what? Today we have another football episode. In all honesty, the next couple of weeks are going to be football episodes. The football NFL season is coming to a close, and I just want to hold on to the football episodes for as long as I can. I hope that's all right with you. If not, we will have other episodes about other sports coming up soon, I promise. But, God forbid a girl hold on to football for as long as she possibly can, because it's going to be over real dang soon, and I'm going to be sad about it. But it's not over yet. We just had a crazy weekend of the divisional round of games for the NFL playoffs, and it was nuts, really. And today we have a really fun guest on. We have Emily joining us today, and Emily is the creator of Sideline Edit. If you follow the Name One Player podcast on social media, TikTok in particular, if you don't, you definitely should go follow Name One Player. It's just Name One Player. But my point is, if you follow Name One Player, your For You page probably would have sent you Emily's sports content, because it is just so good. I love the stuff that she puts out. It's not just about football. She really is covering pretty well every sport, and the information that she puts out is just so informative, really. I love it. It is so great. So I reached out to Emily, asked her if she wanted to come on and chat about the divisional round, and she said yes, and I'm so excited. We are going to get all into all four of the games, and it's going to be great. Emily is also going to get into what inspired her to create Sideline Edit. A very common theme that I get when interacting with the listeners of the Name On Player podcast is that a lot of you guys are like, I want to start posting about sports. So I'm going to ask Emily if she has any advice for anybody who might want to start doing that. So hopefully she has something good. I can imagine she will. I think it's going to be an absolute blast. We are probably going to talk a lot, so I apologize in advance. If you don't like football, this might not be the episode for you. Let me just tell you. But if you do, you might love this episode. If you are a fan of any of the teams that lost, I was going to say you might not like this episode, but honestly, I think you probably still will. I think it's going to be a great one, and I think let's just hop into it, shall we? All right, everybody, without further ado, please welcome Emily. We have Emily here with us. Emily, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Nicole?
I am really good. Thank you for asking. I mean, it's Tuesday now, the day that
Mhm.
we're recording. So it's been a few days
It
since this
has.
divisional round of the playoffs. I'm super excited to get into all of that with you. We're going to recap all four of the games, talk a little bit about our predictions, maybe our wants, our hopes, and our dreams for the conference games. But before we hit record, for everybody listening, I reached out to Emily because I thought she was like diehard Bills girl. For anybody who's watching on YouTube or maybe the video version on Spotify, Emily is wearing a New York
I
Giants.
am.
Is this the Fanatics Lululemon
It
collab?
is. It
I like
is.
it. It looks
Yeah.
nice.
Thank you.
So yeah, before we hit record, we were just discussing, Emily, all of the teams that you love. So I
Mhm.
want to hear all about your NFL fandom, really just about everything. Let's
Yeah.
hop into it. Why don't you tell me and the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, totally. So I run the mainly TikTok account, Sideline Edit, and that really came to be. I feel like within the friend group, I was always like the sports girl. And when people had questions of why is this such a big deal? Why is everyone freaking out? They would come to me. And I feel like that has just evolved now into this platform where I share sports news as well as like diving into a little bit more of like the pop culture or the fashion, kind of humanizing the players and the league. And I cover more than just NFL. I cover F1 and tennis and a bunch of different sports. I love the Olympics. And so I feel like that for me, when I started posting, my Olympic stuff was the first that really like popped off for me.
Oh,
And so now
cool.
we have the Winter Olympics coming up, which I'm excited about. But I've always been a sports fan ever since I was little. My family was into sports. I'm originally from the East Coast, and so my family were from New York, and so we grew up being New York Giants, New York Yankees fans, which I always say was a good childhood. I know
Okay.
now the Giants obviously aren't doing the best,
Yeah.
but I feel like with just being a fan of like the league and a bunch of players, I've grown to love like a lot of different teams, players, coaches. The Bills and the 49ers are probably the teams that I root for the most outside of the Giants. And so I am definitely like have some Bills in me. I also feel like since I started doing this more and when brands would reach out and be like, "What are your teams?" If I tell someone New York Giants, sometimes they're like, "Well, we're not doing anything for the Giants right now. Like, who else would you cheer for?" And I think that is part of the confusion of why I have so much Bills stuff as well. Because I'm like, okay, I can gladly rock something that has to do with the Bills. And so I've been fans of a bunch of different teams, have different like connections with different teams, but there are definitely some teams that you will never see me wear, like the Cowboys being one of them. Like
Fair
that
enough.
would be definitely a no go for me.
Okay, good to know. I think a lot of your Bills content was
Yeah.
being pushed out on the For You page to me. But then when I, creeped your profile for some research purposes once we figured out you were coming on, and I saw it's like you had outfits for every team.
Yeah, I know. I have a lot. I'm also like a big fan of a good thrift find.
Love
And so I
it.
have a good like Texans thrifted.
Nice.
And so that makes an appearance here and there too.
No. Well, it's probably good too. Like you mentioned with Sideline Edit, and one, it's not just an NFL thing. It's
Yeah.
really all like across lots of different leagues, lots of different sports. But then within the NFL, so many different teams. Like you can make videos in in pretty
Yeah.
well except Cowboys. We've
Yes.
established.
No.
Would you ever put on a Cowboys hoodie?
Probably not. Them and the Eagles. I can do the Commanders. I have a soft spot for them.
Okay.
But yeah, them like the Chiefs would be a hard one for me.
Okay.
Obviously, like my childhood, Andy Reid was the Eagles, and so I
Yes.
feel like that jump, I can't do that.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like I love a good game, no matter who it is.
Okay, so I want to get a little bit more into Sideline Edit. You mentioned
Okay.
that you created this because you were the go-to of your friend group of
Yeah.
talking about sports and why, like almost the lore behind it, like why it was
Mm-hmm.
a big deal, what was going on, and not even just like the specific plays and
Yeah.
games or whatever was going on, kind of bringing in that pop culture moment to it, which I love. I love,
Yeah.
love, love when brands do that because I love sports and I love
Yeah.
pop culture. So I love how Sideline Edit has done that.
Thank you. I feel like to kind of to your point of the lore, the stories, like more humanizing, I relate sports to being the best reality TV because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Totally. I love that. All right. So, how do you go from, being that friend in the friend group who just loves to talk about sports and loves to let people know about what's
Yeah.
going on to, actually getting a camera, getting a ring
Hmm.
light, whatever it is that you did, making this account, Sideline Edit, and posting about sports and, getting to where you are now? How did you, take
Yeah.
that first step?
Yeah. I honestly don't know. It wasn't something that I had been like thinking about for, a long time or anything. I feel like it was just an idea that kind of came to be one day and I was like, oh, I might as well give this a go and see. And if for anything, just like do it for myself and have fun with it. I mean, was like, I'm spending so much of my free time watching sports anyway.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I would have a little commentary that maybe I would share just on like my personal Instagram. And I started to notice like more and more people were messaging me about it and kind of caring about it. And so I feel like with that, I was just like, well, what if there was a separate account where I just did it as much as I wanted to and just kind of see where it goes? And I feel like with that, it was a lot of like trial and error at first and just playing around. And I've worked in like branding and also just in media. And so I feel like it's never been that scary or daunting for me. I'm like, okay, I might as well just like give it a chance and see how it
Nice.
goes.
That is so cool. Did you start with Olympics content, or that was kind of the stuff that started to pop off
Kind
for you
of.
first?
And so I started, I would say, about 2 years ago. And then, yeah, the Olympics content, I feel like that was the first thing I was like, I'm really going to cover this. And I feel like with that, that was when I was like more consistent and actually seeing things like pop off
Yeah.
in a way that I was like, okay, I don't just care about this. My friends don't just care about this. Like, a lot of people care about
Yeah.
this and like want this out in the world.
I love what you said about how you were already spending so much of your
Yeah.
time watching sports anyways. You just started posting on your personal
Yeah.
Instagram, and that kind of just naturally organically got some traction. So you decided, okay, let's make this page. Why not a separate
Mhm.
one for your thoughts about sports and just getting that information out there.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that so many listeners right now could really relate to that. Being that friend who loves sports, whatever
Yeah.
sport it may be, maybe it's a whole bunch of them just like you, and wanting to talk about them. But if there is anybody listening who kind of is on that line of wanting to talk about it, to maybe make that account, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah. Great question. I feel like you have to just go for it. There are a unlimited amount of especially men who are already doing this, and so I feel like the space for women, like we need as many people as possible. Just having your own voice and being excited about it. Somebody asked me once, it was actually somebody who worked at the NFL, and I was having a meeting with them, and they're like, "How do you decide what you're going to cover and what you're not going to cover?" And I was like, I don't know, it's just whatever I think is interesting. Like
Yeah.
I'm just like everyone's talking about this. I have thoughts or there's little bits that I know people maybe like aren't understanding or they don't know like the lore behind it. Like I just want to, be like, guys, this is why it's a big deal. And I think for me, something that honestly helped me is just thinking that I was just posting out into the world and not thinking about who's going to receive it. Because I feel like with a branding background, I'm always thinking of like my target audience and what my target
Mm.
audience would want. But I remember somebody telling me once that, like, hey, there's a lot of people in this world. If you think it's interesting, somebody else is probably going to think it's interesting too. And it's probably actually thousands of people, not just one other person. And so I feel like with that, it's just being like, if you think it's cool, somebody else is going to think it's cool. And so, really, the next step is just making the account and posting. And I feel like with that, it's like the more you do it, the more comfortable it is. And now it's like I post every single day, normally multiple times a day, and it does not feel like work for me at all. Like I just have an idea and I'm like, I want to execute this as quickly as possible and get it out there. It really doesn't feel like work. And so I think if you have that around it, like that's going to make it so much easier for you. If it feels daunting and it feels hard, find out what you love about it and like use that to fuel you.
Wow. Okay, that is such good advice. I mean, just at the end there, like find what you love about
Yeah.
it and do that. Because I even know for me personally, like sometimes it does feel daunting. Sometimes
Yeah.
there are parts of, I mean, even podcasting and posting on TikTok, like there are some parts of it that I'm like, I don't love that part of it. But then it's like
Hmm.
find the part that you do and
Yeah.
really like get wrapped up in that. But I also love what you said too about having this media background and always kind of having that target audience on your
Yeah.
mind. And I feel like that is such a huge thing that you see these creators who like talk to people who want to post or whatever,
Yeah.
talk about their target audience, and you have to really zone in on your niche and figure out who you're talking to. But that is such a good point that it's like if you're passionate about it, the likelihood of there
Totally.
being at least one person, if not thousands, who also find
Yes.
that interesting, that's your target audience right there that you just naturally found by just being yourself and
Yeah.
just having something that you're interested in. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks.
thank you for that advice. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm sure everybody listening is like furiously writing this down. Where can everybody follow you and the
Yeah.
Sideline Edit?
Yeah, so it really is TikTok is I feel like where I am the most active, and so it's just at Sideline Edit. And then I do also have an Instagram that I am hoping to be more active with. And so those are, yeah, the two places.
Okay, amazing. Well, yeah, everybody listening, definitely be sure to follow Sideline Edit really, really, really amazing content. So if
Thank
you
you.
like the Name One Player podcast, you will absolutely for sure like what Emily puts out on Sideline Edit. All right, let's get into these
Yeah.
games. We discussed before we hit record the order that we want to go in. And
Hmm.
we're not going to go in the order of just like I don't even know which game was played first. I
Yeah.
guess
It
Bills
was Broncos,
Broncos would.
Bills, and then
Yeah.
49ers. Yeah,
Okay.
Seahawks.
Yeah. So we'll do Bills Broncos last because I
Oh, yeah.
feel like we have a lot to say on that. And again, I thought this was going to be a Bills episode,
Yeah,
but this
and
is
it
even
totally
better. We
can.
got all
Yes.
of them. Okay, so let's start out with personally I thought this was the most boring game of the games. I think it was
Mhm.
still a really great game. Also maybe not as much for you. I've been saying this whole playoffs, like obviously I want the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs, of course.
Right.
100%. But I don't know that there's been a team of the Minnesota Vikings that have made the playoffs in more recent years that I was confident was going to win the Super Bowl.
I
So it's
know.
like just prolonging the disappointment. Sometimes, at least this season, it was just nice to like gonna go into the playoffs. No stress. You had like stress all across the board.
I know. I make stress for myself even when I don't need to. I feel like for me, Giants, there is an extra level of stress. Like, I could not, if the Giants were in the playoffs, I could not watch those games like with friends. I would be by myself pacing, whereas I don't have that as much, at least not now. Like, when the 49ers played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, I was like stressing, but I feel like right now I'm like, I'm just enjoying it while it's lasting. It's coming to an end.
Well, okay, I'm just thinking because I was gonna ask, like, so when were the last year the Giants were in the playoffs? But was it
Daniel
this
Jones beating
season?
the
Yes,
Vikings.
that's what I was gonna say. And then what happened the game after that? I genuinely don't. I mean, I think the Giants lost, but I don't remember who were they
Yes.
playing.
I want to say it was the Eagles, but I could be totally wrong on that.
Okay, okay.
Um,
You know what? I think it might have been. That does sound familiar because it's like as a Vikings fan, I also never want to root for the Eagles. I also too I get to the point where if like a team beats the Vikings, I'm like, you know what? They've beat this team that I cheer for.
yeah.
So if they win,
Yeah,
then that's okay. So
yeah.
it might have been, yeah,
I
Giants Eagles and I maybe was cheering for the Giants. Also, just crazy about Daniel Jones.
I
Like
know. I know.
Well, okay, this is totally unrelated, but what were your thoughts about him? I guess when he was a Giant, you maybe didn't love him,
Yes.
but
I mean, no, he really I liked him. I feel like he really had like worst case scenario. It was like a
yeah,
different offensive coordinator every year, like different head coaches, like
yeah,
just not set up for success at all. And
yeah,
so I definitely felt for him. And honestly, when they decided to part ways and he went and got picked up by the Vikings, I was like,
yeah,
okay, Kevin O'Connell, like, I think this is a great spot
yeah,
for him. Like, I would love to see him succeed. And then with the Colts, I was like, okay, like, he is having his moment until he got injured. But I feel like with Daniel Jones, I've always seen that he can get a little stressed and flustered under pressure.
yeah.
And I'm just like, I just want him to get past that. And then I think, I hope the best for him.
Do we know how he's doing with his injury?
I don't know.
I haven't
I
heard
honestly
much.
haven't looked into it. I mean, I remember he had a really hard like rehab with his ACL, just like
Yeah.
I don't know. And so I feel like that's hard also going like from one to the other so quickly. But it seems like the Colts, I know he was just like on a 1-year deal with him, but it seems like the
Mm,
Colts like want him back and he
yeah.
would love to return. So,
Well, maybe that's just what Minnesota is for, is, moving
I
these
mean,
quarterbacks through and then having them
that's
thrive
what Kevin
elsewhere.
O'Connell is apparently supposed to, be good for. And so, yeah.
Again, this is totally unrelated, but I'm
Yeah.
enjoying this conversation. Again, like this
Yeah.
is where people are at with like the Vikings Twitter at least. And I'm kind of in agreement with this. If we do let JJ McCarthy go, which I don't think
Yeah.
we will, I think we will hold on to this boy for a while. It's actually his birthday today that we're recording. Happy
Oh, wow, that's
birthday,
funny.
JJ McCarthy. He's 23, which is just
I
crazy to
know.
me. A
I
little
know.
baby.
People treat him like a second year, and I'm like, he just like this is his first year, you know?
Oh my God, thank you for saying that
Yes.
because I, especially with Packer fans, I would refer to JJ McCarthy as a rookie and these guys would just be on me and be like, yes, he's not a rookie. I'm like, let's be
Yeah.
realistic here. But anyways, if JJ McCarthy were to go to another team, he would be the best quarterback in the league because that's what the Minnesota Vikings do. They do
Apparently.
yes, like they just don't necessarily thrive in Minnesota. I mean, Sam Darnold, and we'll talk about this
Yeah.
with when we
Oh
get into
yeah.
that game. But they move on from the Vikings because they didn't do what they needed to do in with the Vikings,
Yeah.
and then they do it elsewhere. But best of luck to Daniel
Yes.
Jones. If he's listening, I hope he's
You
doing real
know.
well. All right, let's start out with this Patriots Texans game. And you said that you have a soft spot for the Texans, is that right?
For the Patriots actually.
Okay,
And
okay.
so yeah, which is interesting because growing up, obviously we had some Patriots Giants really good
Yeah.
Super Bowls. But yeah, I have like a little bit of and honestly for the Texans as well. Like I like D'Amico. I feel like if both of these teams are playing other teams, I would like normally root for each of
Okay.
them. But yeah, I feel like I was excited about both of them just being young teams making it to the
Mhm.
playoffs.
Yeah. So when you were sitting and watching this game, then did you have any team that you were particularly rooting for, or you were just along for the ride?
I was thinking about the long term, and I think because of that, I just I like CJ Stroud. I just felt like he's been struggling, and I just
Yeah.
didn't think that whoever they had to play next, they might be able to beat. And so I
Okay.
feel like because of that, I was a little bit more on the Patriots,
Okay. Okay.
personally.
I agree. Watching that game, I didn't necessarily think if the Texans did win, I think they would be out
Yeah.
whoever
I
that they
mean,
are playing in the AFC the next game.
and I love like a really good defense. I think it's so fun when we do get to see a team that their defense is keeping them in games. And so I would have been great to see that. And I know that Nico Collins was out for concussion and they said if they won, he would probably be able to play in the next game. But obviously they did not have him for this game.
I will say
Mm.
Drake May was my fantasy quarterback. And also
Oh,
while I'm
fun.
watching the playoffs, I forget that fantasy's done. I did also win. I will
Yeah.
say I did win my fantasy
Nice.
league. We did an all
Congrats.
girls league. It was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I've always been a Drake May gal this season at
Yeah.
least. I also just saw a TikTok about, I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen that Mike Vrabel TikTok or clip going around how I think her name was Teresa or whatever, and was
Wait, I
always
don't.
letting
Oh,
Teresa
yes, at the
talk
press
first.
conferences.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
always letting I don't even know. I don't know why Teresa's
Yeah.
coming to my mind. I
I
really do
think you
think
might
it
be
might have been
right.
Teresa, though. Yeah, because it's all the multiple clips.
Yeah.
Teresa, yeah, let's go. You go first, and not letting these male reporters jump in, and always letting Teresa, who may have been the only, if not
Mhm.
one of the few women in the room with these press conferences. I love that.
Yeah.
And now Drake May's
Drake,
doing
yep.
it. I love that. I think that's
Mhm.
amazing. I don't know if you saw the clip, but I saw it on Instagram actually. And then a lot of
Yeah.
the comments, there were some men who thought he was actually quite rude, Drake May, to the male reporter that he
Oh,
asked.
interesting.
But I thought he was
I
perfectly
thought he
polite.
was
He's
kind
like,
of
I'll
nice
get to
about it.
you
He was
right
just like,
after.
"Thank
Yeah.
you. I'll get yeah, I'm going to start with I think he said something like I'm going to start with Teresa or you
Yeah.
know.
But you know what? I'm kind of all in on Drake May. I think I
Yeah.
might be. I think it might be. I don't know.
I mean, I like Mike Vrabel. I think it would be fun for them. I do think it would be interesting. I keep thinking the idea of Stephon Diggs winning before Josh Allen. I'm
That's
like,
so true.
you know, but
That's a good
yeah, I
point.
think if anything, they're gonna be have really good experience for in the future. And I know this game was one of Drake May's worst games,
Yeah.
even though obviously they won, but it was like less than 250 yards. It was like three plus turnovers. He was like sacked 5 times. Like it was definitely like if you normally have those stats, you would lose the game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think they still know that they have a lot to clean up.
Mhm.
But I feel like with that, they're just like so young that I think if anything, it's like this is great experience and gives you a lot of confidence if you're a
Yeah.
Patriots fan.
That's a really good point too, because it's like, are they getting to the point where they're just freaking tired and they
Yeah.
like their bodies can't do it anymore? And they still have 2 more games to go if they do make it to the Super
Yeah.
Bowl, and you'll have a week break in there if they do win next week or whoever
Yeah.
does, whatever. Or will, this momentum and, maybe not playing as well in comparison to previous games that they've
Yeah.
played. Maybe that'll give him a little bit of fire and he'll play incredibly. I don't know.
I know. Yeah.
Such a good point about Stephon Diggs though. Because
Yes, Vikings connection.
yes, yes. I mean, I would love for him to win a Super Bowl. Like when I was saying too about how more recent Vikings teams,
Yeah.
I don't think they could have won the Super Bowl. I mean, that may have been a team that could have done it. Obviously, they
Yeah.
didn't. But with everything going on, and maybe you know the lore a little bit more than I do, with Stephon Diggs. And again,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna look it up right now, so I'm not gonna say any incorrect information. But there's some charges against him
Yes.
or accusations about I don't even know a chef, and I don't
Yes.
know
I
like
don't know.
some
Yeah.
sort of assault again too. I'm
Yes.
not gonna get too far into it because I don't know the case, but
Mhm.
I have said many times it is a shame that you know players in the NFL and across all major sports leagues get treated incredibly differently. Like Stephon Diggs is able to make a Super Bowl run when I know in my job, if
Yeah.
I don't know if he has, I guess he probably doesn't have charges because if he had charges, I don't think he would be playing. I think it is still
I think
accusations at this
yes.
point.
I think it's still accusations, and I don't remember the exact timeline of when like things would
I
be
I mean
figured
I
out
did see
more.
Cardi B being like I don't believe it
Yeah.
essentially, which again just a mess. And like I'm very much like let's believe women when they find the courage to come out and speak out about people that are celebrities essentially, if we want to call athletes that, which again I
Yeah.
don't necessarily always want to do, but it's just so fascinating. I know for me like if I was going through something like this at my job, I'd be put on leave 100%. They'd be like, no, please don't come into work, like let's figure this out.
I
So
know. I have not dived into it more, and so I would have to, I feel like, to speak on it more. But
Mhm.
yeah, we'll see. More will come out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see. But
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what happens with the Patriots. Putting that kind of stuff aside, sure, it would be great for Stephon Diggs to win a ring. And really interesting, yeah, before Josh Allen,
I
just with
know.
everything that went down with the Bills. Goodness, I feel like we might go over time a little bit here because now the wheels are turning.
I know. I
Um,
know.
for anybody who, maybe isn't as locked in about football or just know the lore behind Stephon Diggs, we'll get into this really quickly because we will touch on the other games, but this is such a fascinating point. I'm so glad you brought this up. But Stephon Diggs, he's an incredible wide
Yeah.
receiver. Like there's no denying that. I do think he was like most wide receivers,
Hmm.
back in your prime when you kind of are just first starting out, you're making these incredible plays. Stephon Diggs made one of the most
Yeah.
beautiful literally they call it the Minneapolis Miracle.
Hmm.
Incredible catch. And then his ego got a little like he got like ran away from him a little bit, which was unfortunate. And then he did carry it to multiple other teams. Did he go to the Patriots after the Bills, or did he have another team in
No, he
between
was
that?
at the Texans and
Yeah, that's
he
what
got
I
injured.
thought. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
bouncing around might
Hmm.
be a little bit of an attitude problem.
Hard to say. I mean, he is definitely somebody who is also known to have a lot of side quests off of the field in
Yes.
terms of like partnering with like fashion brands and being in Fashion Week
Oh,
and
that's not what I thought
things.
you were gonna say.
Oh, yes, no. Going on to more the like positive side of it, I
Yeah.
guess. But yeah, so he's somebody that I feel like he has great fashion. Like
Yeah.
people I
Yeah.
think appreciate him for that and know him for that. He also obviously has a brother who plays in the league.
Mhm.
And so I feel like he is somebody who people have known about for a little bit. I want to say he's like 31 or so. So a little bit older, I guess, in the sports world.
Yes.
Um, but yes, he's definitely somebody. He's also like very animated, especially like on the Patriots sideline. You'll see him, you'll know who he is,
Yeah.
if you're watching a game. But yes, I have not done too much research on, I feel like, recent things with him, but yeah, definitely one of those like main characters of the NFL.
Yes, and definitely, at least again for me, one of those ones that, it is really hard to like be like, do I like this guy? Do I
I
not like this
know.
guy? I don't, it's really tough to tell. Definitely gonna be watching out for Stephon Diggs and, the rest of the Patriots. So
Yeah.
glad you brought that point up. Okay, let's move on to, what do you want to do first? 49ers and Seahawks, or do you want to do Rams at Bears?
I think we could probably do 49ers Seahawks quicker
Okay.
and then do both of the
I
overtime
agree.
games.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. All right. You mentioned you are a 49ers fan. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
Yes, I am. I feel like I love Kyle Shanahan. I don't know. I mean, they have so much talent on that team that I feel like there's a lot of entry points for people to have been rooting for them in recent years. And I think, especially with the AFC being so good in recent years, in the NFC, we've really been bouncing between the 49ers and the Eagles. And as somebody who can't root for the Eagles, I've had the opportunity to root for the 49ers a lot.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. How
Yeah.
come you never root for the Viking? Why? Why? Did...
Honestly, nothing against them. No.
Okay. Maybe one of these years they'll sneak in. They'll have
Yeah.
some war going on that'll really suck you in.
Yeah.
I always think too. Again, this is such a tangent, but I love in the playoffs how I keep saying the word lore, but like how these little stories do come up
Yeah.
that, do humanize these athletes and get people hooked in that have really nothing to do with the actual gameplay. And it's so
Yeah.
fun to see. And I always think one year the Vikings are going to have something.
Yes.
They're going to have a playoff run and everyone's going to band behind them because of something. And I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm excited for the day that it
Yes.
happens.
And I will say one of the things I get a lot when people like DM me is that they'll say that they are an NFL fan, but they really only watch their team. And
Mhm.
so coming to my page, they're able to see a little bit more of like the entire
Totally.
league
Yeah.
because it would be a big commitment to watch every football game every single
Yeah.
weekend.
Definitely.
It's not possible. And so I feel like with that, this is kind of nice that at least, this past weekend, 2 games a day. If you're into it, you can make the time and watch them all.
Totally, totally. Going back into this game and
Yes.
talking about Vikings lore, we kind of touched on it before how Kevin O'Connell, the
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota Vikings coach, people refer to him as the quarterback
Yeah.
whisperer. And the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks is Sam Darnold, who, again, for anybody who maybe isn't as locked in to football or what was happening last season, Sam Darnold, he was the Minnesota Vikings quarterback.
Yes.
And the first game of the season was against
Mhm.
the Giants, and nobody expected the Minnesota Vikings to win. And I remember I actually used to live in London, and I was in
Okay.
London watching the game. There's this casino that would play all the NFL games at once and on like different screens. So
Oh,
like each
fun.
team would kind of have like a little huddle of a screen. So it was really fun. And I remember being there with a bunch of Vikings fans who lived in London, and we were stunned. We were stunned at how well Sam Darnold did because nobody was expecting Sam Darnold to play as well as he did. I think last season it was a 14-win season for him, maybe. I don't know. He did really, really, really
Yeah.
well. And now the Vikings are a little bit of a laughing stock of the NFL because they did not keep Sam Darnold. Nobody obviously will know except Sam Darnold and the
Yeah.
Minnesota Vikings of what went down. My understanding though is that Sam, he wasn't pushed out. Like he,
Okay.
there was
Yeah.
open conversation. He was offered the same contract essentially in
Oh,
Seattle, except he would
interesting.
be starting in Seattle. So it
Yeah.
wasn't a money thing. It wasn't like the Vikings weren't going to pay him. It wasn't any of that. Again, is my understanding. I don't think there's like official breakdowns
Mm-hmm.
necessarily of the numbers. Now he is the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks and he's doing so dang well. But I just don't know if I'm ready to see Sam Darnold win a Super Bowl
I
with
know.
the Seattle Seahawks. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but it's also interesting because you think of the 4 quarterbacks we have left, and you're
Yeah,
like, well, obviously Matthew Stafford has one, but then Sam Darnold's the most like tenured, at least in,
that
And
would
so
be
it
such a good
seems like
story.
really possible.
Yeah.
And I
Oh
feel like
no.
I know, and I feel like for on the 49ers side of things, with having just the Seahawks and the Rams left, you have your division rivals going in and playing at your home stadium. And so it's like, okay,
Oh,
you probably don't want either of them to
oh my God. I
win.
didn't even think about that. That's
I
such a
know.
good
Isn't that I
point.
know. So four of the NFC teams were all from, or three out of the four of the NFC teams this past weekend were all,
Wow.
division rivals. And
That's
so
crazy.
I know, which just shows how challenging, obviously, that division is,
Yeah.
and that they have been like a little bit more tested because of that, because they've had to play each other at least
Yeah.
obviously twice. And so I think that showed a little bit. But even with that, like the Seahawks stats, they weren't anything crazy. I feel like the
No.
name of these four games this weekend were whoever won the turnover battle won the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, in like huge numbers. And so I feel like with that, also the 49ers were just so injured. I think we were just proud that they were there. And at some point, it's like, how much can like, your fourth string anything have the experience to go against a strong Seahawks team? And
Totally.
so yeah, it was, I don't know. I feel like for me, after the 49ers had just lost to the Seahawks in the last game of the season, I think it was like everything was like writing on the wall of like, okay, now it's the 49ers turn to win. And we know that Sam Darnold has had games where like he hasn't, done his best. But I think at the end of the day, the 49ers were just so injured.
Yeah, and I mean, the final score of that game was 41-6. Obviously,
Yes.
Seattle wins. And when you hear that score, you see that score, you think that yeah, it must have been like this crazy dominant game. And of course it was, but
Hmm.
like you said, the 49ers were so injured. Like you're
Yeah.
playing your backups, and it was tough for them, of course. Something though too that I did write down about Sam Darnold, and again, just me personally, I don't hate the man. I do love Sam Darnold. I think
Yeah.
he's great. I don't think I have nothing bad to say about him other than like you mentioned,
Yeah.
he does sometimes not play well in these big games.
Yeah.
But he's proving that to not necessarily be true. But
Yeah.
at the same time, the score was 41 for Seattle. He only had for 7 points, well, 6 points of that
Yeah.
had anything to do with Sam Darnold.
I
So
know.
I
Yeah.
don't necessarily know. Again, I have no ill will towards him. I don't wish him badly or anything, but he's not like showing up. Like he had 124 yards, which is like good, I guess.
Yeah.
But considering Seattle had 41 points,
Right.
doesn't seem like a ton.
The stats weren't anything crazy, and I honestly feel like it could work in their favor because they know they still have work to do going into this
Yeah.
game. And I think that is helpful if you can recognize that and kind of been able to be called out on like, this is what needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah. What I will say though, I mean, and we will discuss this afterwards, the next game against the Rams
Mhm.
is in Seattle.
I know.
And
Big, yeah, huge advantage.
And I mean, I wrote this down too. So I actually missed this. I did not see the first quarter of the game.
Okay.
First play of the game,
Yes.
95-yard kickoff return touchdown.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if you've seen, but that was actually registered as a minor earthquake with the seismic activity from like all of the screaming and the
Wow.
vibrations from the noise from that touchdown in Seattle. So obviously that stadium gets real freaking loud.
Yes, it's a real thing. The 12th man, it's very real. And even, I mean, if you watch the game, you can hear it. And
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
very real. But yeah, with the Rams, it's like you have a veteran quarterback going in there. And so I think I'm excited for these upcoming matchups. I think they're like,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Well, I hope the 49ers get their rest. Brock
I
Purdy, he
know.
did real good. It's not good enough, but that's okay.
Yeah.
There's always next year, as we
Mhm.
say.
Yes. No, I think they are probably feeling a little relieved to get to rest now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, next game, we have the Rams and the Bears.
Yeah.
Crazy game.
Yeah.
Like absolutely crazy game. And this is so interesting to me because the Bears are in the NFC North with the Vikings
Yeah.
for a very long time, the Bears have just not been good at football. Like years and years and years, they have not
Yeah.
done well. This season was crazy, and I will say in the wild card round when the Bears beat the Packers, I'm like, you know what? I like the Bears. I'll admit it. I think they're a
Yeah.
fun team to watch. Caleb Williams, was getting into the lore with him.
Yeah.
His nails, his mom owns a nail salon or is a nail tech or something like that. Everyone's drinking matcha because he shows up
Yes.
at the games drinking matcha. And I kind of love it. I posted a TikTok about how I had fallen in love with him, and somebody said it was some comment about how he, on his first year on the team or something, and I didn't fact check this. I also
Yeah.
am reading it or bringing it up from memory, so it could be incorrect. But at some point, he had said to the team in their like cafeteria or whatever, they had left a mess, and he kind of snapped at everybody and was like, "This is not what we're going to do. We're not going to let people clean up after us. We're going to clean up our own messes. This is, the attitude that I want to
Yeah.
establish for this team." And I'm like, good for
I love
him. I
that.
think that's
I had not heard
amazing.
that.
Yes, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's true. Some like
I
you
would love if it is
John
true. I think that's, yeah.
989117 commented on it.
Right.
Who knows? But yeah,
Oh my
we'll look
goodness.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, between Caleb Williams and then Ben Johnson, there's a lot of, excitement, new energy around the Bears. They also, not to the extent of the Seahawks, but like the home field advantage is
Crazy.
huge for them. Um,
Crazy.
and I mean, yeah, this game really could have gone either
Now, question for you, because if anybody didn't watch the game,
way.
the Bears, there might have been a point where they were up. I'm not exactly sure what the score breakdown per quarter
Yeah.
was, but at the end they were down by
Yeah.
7. They needed a
They're a fourth
touchdown
quarter
and the
team.
extra
Yeah.
point. Yes. They're a last
Yes.
2 minute team.
Yes.
And Caleb Williams, there's 18 seconds left. He throws
Yeah.
a Hail Mary of Hail Marys. There's quite a lot of discourse now going on with this throw. Chris Collinsworth, he was the one calling the game.
Yes.
And he was like, this is the best throw I've ever seen. This is the best play I've ever seen. He throws it, he goes back. I don't even know how many yards. It's crazy. So half of the people are saying he didn't look at all. Anybody could throw that throw. The other half are saying that was just crazy. Like the control that you
Yeah.
have to actually make that throw and have your receiver catch
Yes.
that touchdown. Where are you? What party are you in
Yeah.
on that throw?
I mean, I definitely think it was impressive, the amount of running around and then, yeah, actually having them catch it. I don't always agree with Mr. Collinsworth, but he is,
Barely.
NFL receiver. He
Of
probably
course.
understands. But yeah, I mean, I was definitely impressed. I'm like, this is a play that is going to be remembered. It's not like that's not the only time we've seen something like that from Caleb. So I did kind of like it for people who were maybe watching the Bears for like one of the first times. I think that's like a good example, honestly, that entire game of like kind of the status quo with this team of making it back in the fourth quarter. And obviously it would have been different if they had won the game.
Yes.
But I think, yeah, I'm like, let's give it to them. I feel like it was impressive.
I agree. And I mean, we will get into what happened.
Yes.
Like you said, they did not win.
Yeah.
And well, okay, before we get into what happened, anybody who watched the game will know what happened next. But my question for you, so Caleb throws that incredible throw. I don't even remember which receiver caught it, but incredible catch.
Yeah.
6 points. They need 7 points to tie it, okay?
Yeah.
You are Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Do you agree with the decision to go for the extra point with the kick and then force overtime and then unfortunately lose the game with what happens? Or do you make the decision to go for the 2-point conversion and win the game or potentially lose the game there?
I think if it wasn't the playoffs, I feel like it would have been a 2-point decision. Not that I know, not that I've talked to him about it, but I feel like with so many people watching it, I do feel like kind of the safer into overtime. I mean, obviously it didn't work out in their favor, but I don't know. I mean, we'll get to it, I feel like, with the Bills as well. The same thing happened with the Bills in overtime. You know, we had the same thing happen where the Bills and the Bears were the same team. They both won the coin toss,
Yeah.
deferred.
Yeah.
Broncos and Rams both went 3-and-out. The Bills and the Bears, they get the ball back, and then they each throw an interception.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the Rams Broncos get to kick a field goal and end the game. And
Which is
so I
so
feel,
crazy that both of those
yes.
situations happened. Like
I know. I'm like, we just watched this happen.
Yes. Yes.
But I feel like with that, there would have been so many more opportunities for them to win that game. And it
Totally.
definitely could have happened. And so I don't think that decision, I don't know, I don't put too much weight on that decision because they still
Yeah.
definitely could have won it in overtime.
I totally agree. And I think if they did win, I guess with the Bills, it was a field goal that tied them up at the end. But
Yes,
um
a Prater field goal. Yeah.
yes, yes. If the Bears had won the game and
Yeah.
that interception hadn't been thrown,
Yes.
there I don't think there'd be any talk of the 2 point because I agree.
Totally.
I don't think that is the move. I don't necessarily know what their success rate is for 2-point conversions either.
Yeah,
I
I
know
don't
for the
know.
Vikings it's quite low.
Mhm.
Actually, you know what? Maybe not. I don't know what the official stats are, but it's very risky, I would
Yeah,
say, as opposed to actually going into overtime and all of the potentials that could happen with that.
totally.
Unfortunately, though, one of the potentials is you lose,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
too.
And I feel like with that, it's like Matthew Stafford also was not on his game. I think he was under a 50%
Oh,
completion
really?
rate.
Okay.
Like I don't know. I feel like there was confidence that they would be able to get it done. And I feel like it would make sense to have that confidence.
Yeah, definitely. And it is just so crazy again, going from Caleb Williams throwing that crazy throw, whether it was a good throw or a bad throw, I don't know. I had somebody in my comments like rambling on with like no grammar at all, like this
Yeah.
like really long comment with like no punctuation about how stupid it was. So
Yeah.
whether it was stupid, whether it was calculated and wise, who knows? It was crazy either
Yeah.
way. And then shortly after that,
Yes.
throwing an interception, which then gives the Rams the ball back and they score a field
Yeah.
goal and win it all. Just
Yes.
such a heartbreaking way to end,
Totally.
I think.
Yeah,
The
because
worst, really.
no, totally. And I feel like, again, it's like the turnovers is what made a difference in the weekend. I wrote this down because
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. But basically, the teams that lost across the four teams had 16 turnovers, and the teams that won only had four combined turnovers. And
Wow, that's a
13
crazy
out of the
stat.
16 were by the quarterbacks.
Oh my
I
God.
know.
I haven't heard that. That's nuts.
Yes. And
Oh
so,
my
and I
God.
mean, I feel like we always like simplify it to turnovers and like you got to hold on to the ball, but it
Mhm.
really was the case this weekend.
Yeah.
And so I feel like with that, it's like if that's the one metric we want to use, kind of the right teams won in
Yeah,
each
totally. That's a really
situation.
good point. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that up.
Yeah.
And also too simplifying it of we often simplify like the wins and the losses
Yeah.
are on the quarterback, which is super simplified. Like it's a
Yeah.
team thing.
Totally.
But when you say that stat of how many did you
I
say? 13
know.
of the 16
13
were
out of the
by quarterbacks?
16. Yeah.
That's tough.
I know.
You know what? This actually might be a good segue
Yeah.
into the Bills Broncos game.
Mhm.
Speaking of, quarterbacks taking
Yes.
responsibility for their losses, I don't really know of any quarterbacks who take responsibility for the win. Um, but Josh Allen, how I think, do you have it written down how many turnovers he had?
So I know it was 5-1, and I want turnovers. I want to say four because I think the only other one I can think of was Cooks.
Yeah, with that catch that again
Yes.
was in the Bears game.
Yeah.
That is a whole different thing
Yeah.
too. And
I
then you
know.
have
I
Joe
know.
Burrow piping in and being like, "No, you guys
Yes.
are all wrong. You don't know ball."
But
Crazy
yeah,
situation there.
I think it was. I want to say it was four of the five
Okay,
were
okay.
Josh.
Goes
Yeah.
then into his post-game presser and
Yes.
is showing lots of emotion, which I think is very healthy.
Totally.
Or like do not tell me like anybody, any man or woman out there who's like, oh my gosh, men shouldn't cry. Do
Yeah.
not tell me that you are not going to be Josh Allen in
I
these
know.
overtime playoff losses. I don't even know how many years it's been now.
And obviously we had the overtime rule change
Yes,
because of the coin
of
toss and
yes.
everything. But no, I mean it is like heartbreaking. I feel like with Josh Allen, he's still one of the best. Like who wouldn't take him, you
Yeah.
know? But a lot falls on his shoulders for sure.
Question for you, actually. Being a Bills fan,
Yeah.
Sean McDermott, did you
Yes.
expect the head coach of the Buffalo
Yeah.
Bills? Did you expect him to get fired after that game?
So I actually didn't, but I think the only reason I didn't is because we just have so many vacancies right now, and
Fair
I
enough.
just felt like does seem like this is the year to do
Yeah.
it. Like, what is that breaking point? But then I
Hmm.
will say once I saw it, I was like, okay, I wasn't surprised. I
Yeah.
think on paper, I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot, and granted, I'm also like, I already know what happened, and so I'm making peace with it as well because it's like he's the nicest person, like
Yeah.
you know. But on paper, it's like the Bills should have won a Super Bowl by now, and I know there's a lot of history, and then most of the time, if a coach is going to come in with a team, like within the first 5 years, they're going to win a Super Bowl, or they're not going to be able to win one. And
Yeah.
so I feel like with that, it's like I need to find the stat because I don't want to mess it up.
Well, that's interesting too in itself, and now I'm getting a little scared for Kevin O'Connell.
I know.
So
I know.
I think this might have been his 5th season. That's so
Oh, really?
interesting.
Has it?
Maybe he's going on to his 5th. You know what?
Interesting.
Maybe this is his 5th. It's maybe I'm trying to think of the exact year, but I know they hired our new GM, well, at the same year as Kevin
Yeah.
O'Connell, which might have been maybe it was the end of the 2022. No, I think it might have been the end of the 2021 season.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, not
interesting.
fact checking. But
Um,
is that like an actual like stat, like a well-known thing that like coaches
yeah.
when they come within 5 years?
Typically. And so you think about like
Interesting.
people who have won. So like even
Yeah.
think of people who have won, like more tenured people like John Harbaugh with the Ravens, like won
Yeah.
early. Mike Tomlin with the Steelers, like won early.
Such a good point.
Um,
And then what
yes. And it
happened?
also this was the stat that I saw that I was like, okay, I think this is a good argument for
Okay.
them. But basically, only 4 teams have ever won playoff games in 6 consecutive seasons, and the Bills are one of those 4 teams.
Yeah.
And the 3 other teams have all won multiple Super Bowls. So you have the Cowboys in the
Yeah.
90s, won 3, I think. The Patriots won 3, and then the
Yeah.
Chiefs won 3. And like the Bills haven't even been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it's like, is Sean McDermott the problem? I don't know. I think
Yeah.
it's hard to say, but I do feel like it's safe to say like something needed to change.
Yeah. Fair
And
enough.
maybe like some new energy is what they need. I don't
Yeah.
know. But yeah, I was like, it's not going to happen. Like, they could definitely win with him. But I think it's one of those things where, like, but it's not happening. And
That's a
so,
good
do
point.
we need new stadium, new energy, new coach?
Yeah,
Like, what do we need?
that's
So
true.
yeah.
Is the stadium going to be ready next season?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe
Yeah.
it's the stadium's fault.
That would be totally fine. Let's blame that.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's good. Obviously, the Bills just have a history of heartbreak.
yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know. We need something to change.
Well, I say all the time, the Bills are the Minnesota Vikings of the AFC. The Vikings are the Bills of the NFC. They are the
Yeah.
same team. And if we get a Bills Vikings Super Bowl where neither of them have won a Super Bowl yet,
Yeah.
that is going to just blow minds. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be upset if the Bills win,
Oh,
especially if
yeah.
it's Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's maybe a different quarterback and then they win. Oh my God, what if it's Sam Darnold?
That would be wild.
I
That
don't
would
see
be
a situation
crazy.
where that happens. If it does, we will clip this. That would
Yeah,
be
totally.
insane. But yeah, let's hope this new stadium does some crazy things for them.
Yes.
I think that's really all that I had to say about the Bills. I guess
Okay.
this is actually a nice segue, because really the only other thing that I had to say about that game is, one, how great Bo Nix played,
I
and
know.
two, how he is now injured and out for the
Yes.
season. So a nice segue into
Yes.
the Broncos playing the Patriots. Who is going to be playing quarterback for the Broncos, you know?
Yeah, it's Jarrett Stidham,
Okay.
who I, you know, recognized who he was, but he's the only quarterback this year or the only backup that didn't enter any games. Every other team's backup entered games.
Jeez.
I think this might go back 2 years actually. But
Wow.
also we've had crazy things happen with backups in big games. Nick Foles has been
Yep.
able to, it's happened.
Yep.
I wishing the best for him. Um, but yeah, it's pretty wild. And I know that Jarrett Stidham has a history with Sean Payton. I think
Okay.
they work together either at other places or he's been re-signed with him. And so I think, and Sean Payton, I feel like vocalized it when he announced it, saying like, I feel confident in
Okay, that's
him,
good.
even if I'm not necessarily rooting for the Broncos.
Yeah.
I hope that like he has a great game and it's not
Yeah.
like, not
Yeah.
competitive or anything.
Of course. Of
I
course.
mean, has been in the league for a while and hopefully it's just like his time to shine.
hmm And I mean, even with the Broncos defense too, I don't necessarily like at the point of the conference championship game, I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know that, only one half of your football team can
Yeah.
win the game for you. I don't
Totally.
necessarily think that. But I don't think, the Broncos should necessarily be written off for
Yeah.
winning that game. Will be crazy if they do.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm curious what the betting lines are actually, but I don't think it's,
I
how
don't
do I
think
want to word this? I was gonna say out of reach. I don't
yeah.
know if that's appropriate, but I don't think it is necessarily out of reach. Let's go with that.
I
Yeah,
mean,
sure.
yeah,
I'll
it's
give
not
it a
like you
thing.
have like a super experienced Patriots team either, you
Yeah,
know?
that's true. That's a good point.
Um, so I think it'll still be a great game and
hmm
yeah, and I think again if you're a Broncos fan, we're watching the game with a Broncos fan. I think you still like have to be pretty excited about
Yeah,
your season.
it's a good point for sure. And kind of what we touched on when we were discussing the Patriots and Texans game, like Drake May, he did not have
Yeah.
he had his worst game
Yeah.
statistically, and maybe they are getting more tired. And maybe the Broncos, like with that bye, and I guess, with the quarterback, he's very rested.
Yeah.
Like
And there's also no film on him. So
okay,
they don't
ooh,
have
true.
that to go off of,
That's a
which I
good
feel
point.
like sometimes, you know how you see that a lot of times in NFL games where they switch up the quarterback and then all of a
hmm
sudden it seems like all the problems are
Yeah,
solved because they have the
yeah,
backup in. But then a lot of times you're like, oh, it's just that they didn't have film on it, so now
yeah.
they're able to figure it out. But I'm like, maybe they'll have, I don't know. We'll see.
Ooh, that'll be a really good game to watch, actually, now that we're
Yeah.
discussing it this way. Ooh, okay. I'm excited. All right.
Yeah.
Now for the NFC Conference
Yes.
Championship, we got Seattle and the Rams. In Seattle, like we
Yes.
said, crazy at home advantage with the noise. Do you have a team that you want to see win in that situation?
I really
I
don't
guess
know.
being a 49ers fan,
Yeah, I'm
are
like
you even
neither.
gonna watch?
I will watch it. I really don't know. I think you have like a lot of things going for each of them. Obviously, like the Rams being someone there. I feel like Devonte Adams winning I could appreciate that, but I don't know. I really don't know. I also
Yeah.
really like for the Seahawks, Julian Love used to be a Giant and I really like him. And
Okay.
so I don't know. How do you feel about the whole Matthew Stafford MVP?
I have mixed feelings too. I
Okay.
don't necessarily know who I would pick
Yeah.
otherwise, and that's what I think almost like encompasses this whole season
I
of like,
know.
what
I
the
know.
hell was this? Of like, yeah, obviously he played well.
Yeah.
And I can't necessarily think of anyone else who played better. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that is why you should win MVP, but is it? Like I can't
Yeah.
necessarily think of like particular, like nothing's coming to mind of like these like crazy like if anything maybe Caleb Williams is what's
I
coming to
know.
mind for me for
I
MVP, which
know.
no, I don't actually think that per se, but yeah, I'm not like there's some MVPs like, you know, Patrick Mahomes, you're like
Yeah.
that he should win
Lamar.
MVP, like
Yeah,
done,
totally.
like absolutely. But I don't know that Matthew Stafford is who comes to mind.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some Rams fans being like, "You're nuts." Do you kind of
Yeah.
have the same sentiments, or
Yeah.
what
I
are your
mean,
thoughts?
it definitely was more like he had a really great, I feel like, beginning of the season.
Hmm.
I also can see, because I guess that comes out at NFL honors, which would be before the Super Bowl. But I'm
Yeah.
also like, because I think he was a free agent last year. And I don't know if it's just a 1 year deal he has with the Rams or not. But I'm also like, is this his last season?
I was gonna
Especially
say
if he
he's
makes
kind of
it
old,
to the
right?
Super
Like,
Bowl.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, is this it for him? I don't know. And so I feel like with either of these, I could go either way. It's just, I don't know, it's just somebody for the AFC to beat in the Super Bowl.
And that's so interesting too, because again, even just talking about MVP, I'm like, well, is Sam Darnold in the conversation? But then it's like when you look at their stats, like
Yeah.
I think for the Seahawks, I think the team as a whole is
Yes.
so good. I don't think Sam Darnold stood out per se, but he did because he's the quarterback of the team, and you know, the quarterback often does get a lot of the credit.
Yeah.
But even too with, you know, Matthew Stafford, like I had Puka Nakua on my fantasy, like,
Oh,
oh, that
yeah.
man won me the championship. That's for
Yeah.
dang sure. And if we're looking at that, like, was Matthew Stafford the reason that the Rams have gotten as far as they
I
did?
know.
I mean, he's part of it for sure. Again,
Oh, yeah.
that is the nice thing. Like football's a team sport. It's
Yes.
everybody's involved. But I I think there's other teams. Again, how do I want to word this? Because I do agree. It's like now we're at the point where all the teams left are obviously very, very good
Yeah.
teams. But they don't necessarily have one player that is the reason that they're the good team. Which makes sense because
Yeah.
it's like it's a
I know.
well-rounded team for all of them at this point. But
Yeah. I think MVP is always tricky because I remember hearing this, so I hope it's true, that there's no definition of why you should vote for somebody for MVP. Obviously, it's the most
mm,
valuable player, but I think obviously people
true.
define that in different ways and have
Yeah.
different metrics. Like I know there was a lot of debate when Josh Allen went over Lamar because
Yeah.
statistically, Lamar Jackson had
Good
better
point.
stats in like
Yeah.
most everything.
Yeah.
But I also think I don't know, like yeah, it's hard to define. And honestly, I am all about I would love to see somebody who's not a quarterback win it
Yeah.
more. Like I
Yeah.
think Saquon should have, at some point. And so, yeah, I don't have a better answer either for who should win. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation for sure. And I do think with Matthew Stafford, there's just a lot of leadership he brings and a lot of respect that,
Yes.
the organization, players on his team, off his team have for him. And so I think like that can definitely factor into it too.
Has he won MVP before off the top of your head? Do you know?
No, he is not.
Well, then that changes things.
So, and I also think that's part of it too. I think that was part of it with Josh Allen. People are like, oh,
Yeah.
he has to win. Like Lamar already has, I think, two. And so even though it was like statistically, it was like Lamar's like best year
Yeah.
ever. So obviously there's a lot to like plays into it, but
Yeah.
I think especially this year, it's like an interesting because there's been
Yeah.
Drake May MVP
Totally.
talks as well.
Because that is a good point too, that it's like, is that worth giving, like voting for
Right.
somebody to win just because they haven't won before? Like if there's somebody
I
who
know.
played better, yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up too, because now I'm very excited to see who ends up winning.
I know. We'll see. I
Okay.
don't know when they vote on it, but I'm pretty sure it's announced at NFL Honors, which I
Yeah.
think is the week like leading into the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So soon.
Okay, well, I'm super excited to see how it
Yeah.
turns out. Emily, thank you so much for
Of
coming on.
course.
This was so fun. Thank you so much for bringing up all the points that you
Of
did.
course.
There were so many things that I hadn't thought about, so I am super glad that we broke down a little bit
Yeah.
of each game. And yeah, I'm so excited to see what happens in these next couple of
I
weeks.
know. It's been a crazy, crazy season, and I feel like it's just like it's making sense that this is how it's ending, you know?
True.
It
Yeah.
just seems like this has been the storyline.
Yeah. And I mean, at least we don't have the Chiefs and the Eagles
Yes.
again.
I
Thank God for
know.
that.
I know. I'm excited about a lot of these teams, and I feel like we're like in a good shape with the NFL. I feel like going forward,
Yeah,
and I also feel like if somebody has been wanting to get more into the NFL, this is a really good starting point because we do have a
totally.
lot of these young teams to be excited
Yeah.
about.
I completely agree. It is a very exciting time
Yeah.
to be a football fan. And exactly what you said, if you're a newer football fan, like this is the time to get into it.
Yeah. Especially with all these new head coaching
Yeah.
positions we have and everything.
Yeah.
It's going to look like a different league.
I love it. I love it. All right, Emily, thank you so much. Thank you so much to Emily for coming on. What a fun episode. This is one of those episodes that I'm like, I do not know that I'm going to be able to keep her under an hour because we just had a lot to say and I love it. I feel like we could have gone on for 5 more hours. Maybe five's a lot. I don't know. But I feel like I can talk about football forever. Feel like Emily can talk about football forever. So that was a really fun conversation. I hope you all had as much fun listening as I had yapping with Emily. I hope you have a lot of fun watching the conference championship games on Sunday. If you are a Seahawks, Rams, Patriots, or Broncos fan, I hope your team wins. If you are a fan of any of those teams and your team loses, I am so sorry to hear that. Yeah. That's real tough. If you are a fan of any other team that is either out of the playoffs or wasn't even in them to begin with, I hope you are enjoying this stress-free playoff football, and we got one more, well, 2 more games, I guess. One more round of games before the Super Bowl, and then it's over. That's so sad. I miss it already. But I hope you have a lovely time watching the games if that is what you plan on doing. I am going to get out of here, but before I go, I just want to thank you all one more time for listening. If you haven't already followed the Name One Player podcast on whatever platform you're listening on, please be sure to do so. If you can rate the show, I recommend you rate it 5 stars, but I'm not going to tell you what to do, okay? You do what you feel fit. And definitely be sure to follow the Name One Player podcast on whatever social media you're on. We're pretty well on it all, and we're posting a lot on it. And I would love it if you followed along. All right, everyone, that is all from me. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and a fantastic rest of your week. All right, everyone, take care. Bye.